Oh, I muted it. Okay. It's okay. You guys saved me. But the point being is I was just saying how awesome this is going to be, you guys, because we have got Melinda Leslie. Am I still muted? No. Okay. But I'm just going to shout out all of the sponsors here on Alien Girl. A lot of you guys have decided to become monthly sponsors of the show, and I couldn't be, more grateful for that. So I just want to give a big shout out. I make sure that you have the running tag at the bottom so that you guys can be... Okay, you guys can hear it. So, yeah, what's up, Justin? Case for Infinity. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. So thank you so much to all of our live chat fam members who sponsor the show monthly. Enzo, Aaron Desaria, Lauren Sosa, Kat Murray, Too Much Information, Akashi Crisp, Yeti Lee, UFO Man, and Justin A.D. Maynard. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show and for coming out here tonight, because we're going to be talking to Melinda Leslie. Melinda Leslie owns the Sedona UFO Tours, which is a tour company in Sedona, Arizona that will take you out in the middle of the night with some cool military specs and really look to see and find UFOs. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about the experiences she discussed in the movie Extraordinary: A Seating. So I'm pretty excited about that. So we're just going to move into... Well, you guys know what we're going to move into. We're going to get this party started. We're going to get this going. Here we go. No, I don't have a Patreon. Do not have one there. But we're starting the show now. Thanks, you guys, for being here. It means so much to me on this Monday evening. Whoa! How did you guys get here? You know what I mean? How in the hell of the YouTube algorithm did you manage to find yourself here? Well, tonight we've got a special treat because we have Melinda Leslie here in the Gray Room. We're going to be talking about the hybridization program. We're going to be talking about my labs, all of it. Because one day, you guys, it's all going to come out. The bodies, the documents, the craft. And they're going to say, you know what they're going to say, you guys. They're going to say that they always knew. Yes, they will. And you're going to say, well, you know what? I kind of knew too, man. Because I was into that stuff. I was talking about that stuff. And I heard it. And I believed it. And when they say that they always knew, you can say, well, you know what? No, man, I knew too, because I was listening to Alien Girl 111, Flarius, Kevin, Case for Infinity. You guys, we've got Linda Leslie in the Gray Room. I want to see some emojis. I want to see, yes, I did, Justin. No, you didn't. I did. I got her on the show. All right, so now we have the one, the only Melinda Leslie. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you doing?
Okay, very good.
Very good. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for taking the time out of your day and your life to come talk to
Pardon
us
me, I'm
about everything aliens.
dealing with rushing because I got in really bad traffic coming from the other end of town. And then I had to use the little alien girls room.
Oh, that's so funny. Yes, no, I totally understand.
But I did, and I'm good now. I'm good, and I did it, and I am good now.
And we are ready to go. We're going to do this. We're going to talk everything aliens. I am just so fascinated with your story. And I'm so humbled that you come on my show because when I saw Extraordinary a Seating, that was a big,
Yes.
that was a life-changing kind of shift for me, that documentary, because I watch a lot of different documentaries about extraterrestrials, and it hit me. And so, and I found your story especially fascinating just because you take such a positive, you've taken your experience and made it such a positive thing for you to kind of understand. And I could see through the documentary just kind of like, that's not the easiest. I guess I'll just say that. I don't think it's the easiest. But anyway, yeah, so thank you for coming on the show. Have you done a UFO tour recently? Did you go do a tour with UFOs recently? Did you go do one of your UFO tours recently?
Oh, yeah. I've had a little bit of some cloudy nights lately, but by the way, the name of my company is UFO Sighting Tours. And the reason I say that is I have two competitors in town. If people go looking for me just by Sedona or UFO Tour, they're going to find one of my competitors. So UFOsightingtours.com is actually my website, but I'm saying just if you look up Melinda Leslie and UFO Sighting Tours, you're more likely to find my stuff.
Awesome.
God, this lighting in here is horrible, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's just going to be bad. It's like I'm all washed out. It's like, what the heck? Oh, no. Anyhow, but that's okay. Technical things. But yeah, no, my UFO sign tour. And by the way, thank you so much, Amy, for having me. I'm excited to be here and really looking forward to this. I love your podcasts. I think they're really fun.
Gosh.
And yeah, so they're real fun. And I said, okay, this will be a fun one to do for sure.
Yeah.
And yet, like I think I texted you, also serious because it's such a serious subject matter. Do I need to like adjust anything sound wise, Laura, raise my mic, anything?
I think everything sounds good for me. What about you guys in the chat? Does it sound good? Give us a thumbs up if it sounds good for you guys.
Let us know in the chat. Thanks. Anyhow, so yeah, I'm excited to be here. But yeah, my UFO sign tour, I do it every night. I just had tour. Well, I'm actually at tour 1,459. So my next tour, which I have people scheduled tomorrow, should be 1,460. So that's how many I've done. And I always jokingly say I've done it a few times. I always tell my clients, trust me, I've done this a few times,
Yes.
And we have seen fully structured craft, like this is my cell phone, floating up in the sky. Okay. Full structure, 58 times now. So on 37 tours, we've seen full structure, but some of those tours were more than one. Like there was maybe two structure craft in the sky at the same time, or maybe there was, 1 and 10 minutes later, an hour later on the same tour, another one. So it currently holds, like I said, I think it's 37 tours with structure craft and a total of 58 different items because again, some tours were more than one. So, and we've had some remarkable up close tours, but I know this is the beginning of Contact Week, or at least
yes,
I think yesterday. So we're helping kick off Contact Week, and I'm not sure whose original idea that was. If it was James Ian Doley's, but if it was, yay, James! And I'm doing you tonight. I'm doing Vinny tomorrow, and I may be on a panel later this week with Ian Doley. So I think that's what to talk about tonight is contact. And one for, contact comes in many forms. And one of those significant forms is abductions. So, and I think to talk about that is important. Another form that it comes in is a kind of a subset of abductions, which is the MILABs, which I also do that research. And so we can get into that too. So anyway, but here I am, and I'm calmed down. Wait, I'm going to grab my drink here. That'll help.
Yes, definitely get a drink.
It's not alcohol.
Definitely.
I wish, man. Yeah, no, not
me either.
Yeah, if I was at home, it'd be wine, but I'm in my office.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
I went and saw a movie this afternoon. So this is from our movie theater. There's a little free ad for Harkins here in Sedona.
Oh, fun! What movie did you see?
West Side Story. So good.
That one looks so good.
Oh, so good. So good. And there's a song in there that I think it reaches on. So there's great songs that reach on so many levels. Obviously, it's West Side Story. Come on, it's, Sondheim lyrics and Bernstein, music. Uh-oh, my computer's doing weird things. Hang on. My computer keeps wanting to update, even though I keep telling it, no, no, no. Because that'll screw things up. Okay, there we go. It's like, stop it, computer. And how many times do I have to tell you, no, bad computer.
We are in an interview, computer.
I know. The program.
That's too funny. But Melinda, it's just so fascinating. So this has been happening to you since you were a child, right? From what I've listened to.
Okay, well, the abduction stuff has been happening to me my whole life. The beginning of the discovery process to realize I'd been having experiences my whole life started in 1989. So that was the beginning of a huge discovery process. It wasn't like overnight, like, oh, I'm an abductee. It took a couple years, starting in fall of '89, to really come to terms with it. I'd say like 3 years to go, okay, But that's when I first realized I had had experiences my whole life and started to have current present time experiences. So it wasn't just past memory and recall, it was new experiences too. And it was really a big deal. Really a big deal. I mean, a huge turning point in my life. I mean, back then I was like an office manager and I was a retail manager. God, there goes my computer again. Stop, computer. Ugh. I have to close a bunch of windows. Now there's a little delay. Now, do I look delayed to you, or is that just my camera to me?
Yeah, you sound fine, and okay. Your video looks fine.
Okay. So I'm gonna ignore this image over here. My app it throws me off. It's like Anyway, so I'll just look at your lovely face. That's great. So yeah, I mean, it started in 1989 was the beginning of my discovery process, and first thinking I was completely losing my mind because I sought the help of a therapist that had been recommended to me by someone in the field, and it wasn't just a hypnotherapist; it was a full-fledged psychotherapist with a PhD in psychology. She's passed now, but the late Dr. Deborah Troncalli. And she worked closely with Bud and John Mack and people like that, and a researcher in the field. It actually all started with a last-minute trip to Area 51 in Nevada, and having sightings is what kicked off the beginning of memory recall, and the whole process started with these incredible sightings. I don't know how much you want me to get into that or whatever. I'll go wherever you take me. How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to go through it all and what you think's important to talk about. Just how many experiences that you've had is what's really overwhelming about your experience. So from the hybridization program, I know you've identified a couple of hybrids that are your own children, right? How many?
it's very common. Sorry, my lips are dry, so I'm looking at them. Sorry. It's very common for abductees to have hybrid presentations. It's not the only thing that happens in abductions, but it is a very common thing that happens. And I've been presented with 3 children, and one of them I got to see later again as an adult.
And that's very common, like you were saying with abduction stories, that happens a lot. People talk about it a lot. They're always, when they talk about abductions, there's always something involved with fertility, whether taking eggs or taking,
Yeah, exactly. They take eggs, ovum from women and sperm from men, and they produce these hybrid beings. Now, I've been watching a lot of things on UFO Twitter, the podcasts and interviews and stuff lately, and there's some people kind of naysaying or saying that they don't think that that's possible. Look, obviously, I want to say don't get hung up on the science of the hybridization thing, because if we're talking beings thousands, tens of thousands, millions of years older than us, and thus therefore where we going to be as a human race thousands of years from now, tens of thousands, hundreds, or even millions of years from now, that technology would look like magic to us. We're gonna have understandings about DNA and genealogy and everything that we can't even comprehend now, so I tell people, look, they're doing it. Okay. Eventually maybe we'll figure out how they're doing it, but they are, because it is so common. We're talking, you guys, we're not talking, oh, this is just a couple abductees saying this, or a couple hundred. We're talking millions of abductees. First off, there were 2 different Roper polls done that said close to 4 million people in the continental US alone. And that was major abduction research organizations tacking on questions to the Roper poll. And none of them were like, have you been abducted? There were these 10 key indicator questions. You had to, by the way, it was paid for by Bigelow,
right,
back in the early 90s.
Interesting.
And the major abduction research organizations got together, the major abduction researchers, to come up with the best questions to ask people that would be uniquely related to the experience. And the Roper organization only counted the results of people who answered yes to all the 10, to the 10 key indicator questions, and came back with, I think it's 3,700,000, the first time.
Wow.
And that, in other words, the number of people answering yes to those questions, according to the Roper organization. So you go, okay, the numbers are, and that was just in the continental US, okay, that the Roper poll did that. We do know now, my computer is showing a delay. Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay,
you look great,
because it says there's a delay.
Yeah, okay. No, it looks great.
Okay, it's saying there's a delay, and sometimes I'll get a glitch in the sound on this end. I just want to make sure on the other end it's okay. All right, so again, so the Rope organization said that, and they're, so it suggests, strongly, if not evidence, for there being millions of abductees. And we do know it's a worldwide phenomena, and in some countries, like South American countries, there's even statistics to suggest the numbers might even be higher than in the US. I think it's just so worldwide that at one time it's going to look like, oh, there's more women. Then it's going to look like, oh, there's, like, even with my own research, because I do abduction research, that at one time I had more female cases, sure. And at one time I had more male cases. In fact, right now, I even have more male cases, or it's about, it averages out. So even though the numbers kind of do this, you can tell over 40 years of abduction research that we've kind of have these understandings as far as the statistics on this, and a lot of really good organizations and people have done research to come up with that. But again, the hybrid stuff is so common. people are having interactions with hybrid children. It's not just their stories. That's another thing I'm hearing, naysayers and questioning people who are newer to the subject. I get it. You're asking the right questions. Just go do the research, read the literature, read Bud Hopkins' works and John Mack's works and David Jacobs' works, and and the late Leo Sprinkle's works and John Carpenter's works, and know what MUFON's study findings are, and the MIT study on abductions. What were their findings? I mean, I realize it's a lot to take in, but if you've been in the field a couple years, just assume you don't know everything. And if you haven't been looking into abductions, if you haven't been sitting in support groups to hear the abductees, just kind of accept, okay, I have a learning curve here. I'm learning. And that's great. And I welcome all the new people in the field. For people like me, I've been at 32 years now. Let's just say I have a tremendous amount of patience. Because of hearing these things, and it's like, don't get bogged down. Well, I don't think the science is possible. Well, what, a million abductees sharing these detailed accounts. And by the way, they have physical evidence. Let's start with the obvious things like the missing fetus stuff, where their doctor documented you're no longer pregnant. And what the abductee remembers is they're taken on board ship, and that happens. And we're not talking a handful of cases, folks. We're talking thousands of people, And so, again, realize that the major abduction researchers who did this research for 40 years didn't fall off the truck. They, some of them have done really good science. John Mack wasn't an idiot, that kind of thing. So, chair of the psychiatric department at Harvard, I'd give him some benefit of the doubt, and there you go. So it's that common. And like I said, people have physical evidence for the abduction experience. I mean, in my own MyLab event, I have a major witnessed. I'm not my lab. I'm sorry, that too. But geez, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But in my hybrid, I meant to say hybrid. In my hybrid experiences, I have a major witnessed story. Now, really credible witnesses where their testimony would hold up in court. Even a medical doctor in my own experience, So it's like, you guys, there is evidence for it. Sure, on an interview like this, it's really hard to present the evidence. If it's visual and documentation, it's hard to do that. But that has been done in the research community. And so, again, as people out there making these statements, realize there's the research to back it up. You're just not familiar with it. Yeah, and I get that. And then without some of those major voices, like, a couple of the major researchers in this field have passed away, and so it's left to people like me and others to then educate everyone. And and there are a couple really good abduction researchers out there, that come to mind right now. Yvonne Smith and Kathleen Martin. Leo Sprinkle just passed away, but we had him until he did. Obviously, Whitley and his knowledge and all the case information that was reported to him and his wife Anne when she was still alive, and et cetera, et cetera. Les Velez of Opus, Gwen Farrell from MUFON, and Kathleen Martin. I think I already said her. So, I mean, and I'm just saying, know the research, know the statistics, and it's important for those of us who are kind of, whatever, spokespeople. I don't know what to call it.
Spokespeople.
For the abduction subject, whether you're an abductee that's going public or has gone public, or you're a researcher, I'm in a unique position because I'm both. But is realizing you have to share that data, you have to share those facts, because again, we have so many new people because of what's going on in disclosure. And we have so many new people in the field, and so many people that have been in for just a few years. And I welcome all those. I just said to another researcher recently on the phone, ufology for a long time, it was all a bunch of gray hairs. Like, you'd go to the conferences and the average age was, 65 in the room. And so now it's like, okay, there's all these young people. So ufology said for years, we got to have more young people. We got to have more young people. Well, it's definitely a lesson, and be careful what you ask for,
Yeah.
because now we do, but, and then it's like, okay, I tell the more senior, I don't, I hate that term too, senior researchers in the community to, and I'm encouraging them, you guys get on Twitter, get in Facebook,
Yes.
share your
Wow,
information. And
exactly.
there are some, Nick Pope is active here.
Mhm.
Dolan, although I wish he'd participate
Mhm.
in conversations more. Uh, but also Preston Dennett, is pretty
Mhm.
active, um, and there are others, for sure. So, but I'm encouraging them because we need to bring up the information that we know, the research, and educate this younger audience. So, so thank you for having me, because now I have some opportunity to do that.
Oh my gosh, no, people know your story, they know what you're doing, like, your work is valued here. The people who are watching this value your work, and they know what you're doing, so we're
Well,
super
thank you.
thankful that you're
Thank you.
here. And then we had a question from Justin A.D. Maynard. He says, "Do
Mhm.
you have an abductee story that really sticks with you?"
Sure. I do the research, and there's the case history and people I know about, so I can talk about other people. But I feel like when I do these interviews, rather than speak for other people, I can share my own experience. Not believe me, you guys, and you said it in the beginning, that is difficult to talk about and everything, like what I did in Extraordinary the Seating. And now I'm in their third movie too, Extraordinary, but I'm in there more as a researcher, and just a couple little clips, but I'm completely okay with that because I love what they've done with the movie. But it just came out November 30th. It's called Extraordinary the Revelations. So Extraordinary the Seating. So they did 3 movies. The first one was about abductee Stan Romanek, very controversial because of personal legal problems
Oh.
he had. But you guys, those legal problems do not tarnish his abduction story. It had extensive research, was well investigated. The same military guys and insiders who are now consulting the government, the guys who were spun off from To the Stars and Bass. Bass was investigating Stan Romanek's case. Those researchers were going and staying at his house every night for weeks on end. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. It's still a legitimate case. Yes, he had a legal thing came up, and whether he was guilty of having some underage pornography on his computer or not, or whether that was planted there, because that's also a possibility, because he was also a Millab case and they were threatening him to stop talking. Now, I'm not saying, you guys, I actually don't know, but I do know there was evidence for his abduction stuff. So the first movie was about him, and I tell people, if you haven't watched it, go back and look at it. People will
Mhm.
say, oh, he was proven to be a hoax or whatever. No, that's not true. His case was extremely well investigated by top people in the field that stand by the science and stuff of it. Did he make mistakes later? Maybe he did, but not about his case or his story. That was personal stuff. Does that mean you throw out all the evidence for his abduction? I don't think so. But I know it's controversial, so I understand, and I'm not taking sides on it. But that's the first movie. The second movie, made by the same production company, is Extraordinary the Seating, the one you talked about. And again, the third
Mhm.
brand new one is Extraordinary the Revelations, which gets into
Yes.
3 predominant theories on why abductions are happening. You know, and but going back to I forget what you asked. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I get
no, no, no.
sidetracked.
I'm just excited just to kind of follow your train of thought and everything that's going on, especially, even Bigelow had his own experience. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
right. That's right.
Um,
Abductions are
and
in his family. Yeah.
yeah, and we really push this away, and it's gotten worse since it's all come out that those 3 Pentagon videos were confirmed.
Hmm.
And then it was like all these people wanted to talk about the law and how they knew so much and all the super fact-based stuff. And I kind of feel like abductions and these stories are being pushed away. I mean, I think it was Ross Colehart. He was
Yeah.
on
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Unidentified Celebrity Review,
Yeah.
and he was saying, "Oh, it's, we shouldn't even be listening to any of this. It's BS." And it's like, well, that's not,
Okay. Well,
it's not a legitimate
I'm going to
response
go
because
and listen to that, because he also once said something on a news broadcast. And now I respect Ross and I like what he's doing, and I think it's amazing. He should not be disparaging the subject. Again, it's like, it's one thing if he's steered clear to say, I don't know, I'm not familiar enough with it. That'd be an honest response. But by saying disparaging comments when you're unfamiliar with the research, with the evidence, you know,
I mean,
uh,
don't quote me. He didn't say like it's all a bunch of BS. It
yeah.
was more like formed in a way that we should not be focusing on this type of research. Um, but I think that's wrong in my own personal
Well,
opinion. I
it,
think the work of
you
like
guys,
John Mack,
it comes down to, okay, we're going, oh, there's ETs, there's craft in the sky. Why are they here? When you look at the evidence for why they're here, there's only a couple of major things that stand out where you can look at statistical data and say, here's data to suggest why they're here. One of those things, and it's probably the highest amount of statistical data, is the fact that there's abductions. When you go, why are the craft here? Why are they here? My clients ask me every night on my tour, why here? No, I can say why they might be in Sedona because of our vortexes, this increased electromagnetic field, and whether they're
Mhm.
getting energy or using it as like
Right.
a navigation beacon. I
Yep.
explain that to people. But why they're visiting Earth, because if we're seeing them in huge amounts in Sedona all the time, and all the other hot spots on the world, and all the other major cities where people have sightings all the time, every day, go to what's reported on MUFON, Mutual UFO Network reporting database. Look at the numbers that they get reported every day, every week. And the National UFO Reporting Center, Peter Davenport site. Go look at, it's a huge amount. And we know that less than 1% of sightings get reported. The statistics agreed to in the UFO research community is less than 1% gets reported. In other words, no signs get reported, and yet their numbers are in the thousands and tens of thousands every week and every month of what's reported.
Wow.
And even if you take out a percentage of misidentifications, you're still left with thousands of reports all the time. I mean, you guys, people go so quick to the negative data on this subject. Well, misperceptions, flares, take that data out and you're still left with overwhelming data. And I tell people, don't focus on the negative data, focus on the evidence. Yet you can take that in consideration, because it's not that it doesn't exist. Are there hoaxes? Yes. Are there flares? Yes. Do people see satellites? Yes. Do people, et cetera, et cetera. Are there people, wannabes who are abductees? Yes. Okay. But again, when you take that data out, you're still left with overwhelming evidence and overwhelming percentages. People are having sightings in the probably hundreds of thousands worldwide every day. People are having abductions in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, every day throughout the planet. And you go, okay, and that's even taking out any questionable data. So anyways, you can tell I'm very passionate about it.
No, and you're on the right show. This is exactly how I feel walking around in my day-to-day life. Amy, what's going on in your head you don't want to know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm just going to tell you all those things because I'm right there with you, which is this big thing that always hits me is like, when is it enough evidence? When is it
Thank you,
enough evidence?
Spooky Morales. I see Melinda inspires me. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Hey, that's the other thing. This is difficult to talk about. And even though, I do get a lot of support in the community for the most part. Thank you, everybody who does. I also catch flack. You guys, I made the mistake recently. Oh, God. Of going and looking at the reviews for Extraordinary This Seating, and they say, like, well, like comments, like even on your show, never read the comments, right? And yet we do, we're human. And
Yeah.
then I always kick myself later because I'm like, why do I do that? I do these panels with Grant Cameron and some other people, and I just get ripped to shreds afterwards. Not by everybody, but by a lot. And I looked at the mainstream reviews on for Extraordinary This Seating and Extraordinary The Revelations, the one that are starting to come in. And man, people can be tough, And so, and I take people on my tours, and I'm very blessed that I get really great reviews, and I love my clients, and they appreciate, and they say, oh, she's so knowledgeable. And I educate them all about what's going on in disclosure, including like currently in Congress. I mean, like, it's always like, I'm always having to follow this information every day, because every night on a tour, I tell people, well, as a matter of fact, just today or within the last 24 hours, this happened, but I also had a negative review recently, and it was people who weren't believing my own story, my own part of it, and it wasn't, they weren't questioning having sightings. I'm like, hey, they go on a tour, they have a successful tour, they have sightings, but yet they still, like, I think it was an affront to their belief system.
Annoying.
I know. Yeah. No, it happens. And I talked to the owner of the center. Now, this is my own business. I'm an independent contractor, but the reviews go on the Center for the New Age, right? That's where I'm in my office right now, and go on their sites. And people sometimes, if they write a negative review, you have to kind of go, okay, what's generating that? Did I really mess up? It's one thing if I truly screwed up about something. And I mean, I get so many positive that these ones just, are stick out there as odd. And most people, when they read through the reviews, go, well, obviously that person had some personal thing or whatever. But I learned from them, and I learned to be better at what I'm doing. And I talked to the owner of the Center for New Age about it and whatnot. But we had someone that was so on the attack that I think, based upon, I was sharing the current disclosure stuff, when I had every reason at the beginning of the tour to think they were out there being very, it's one thing to be skeptical, but it's another thing to like kind of think it's a joke, and then we have sightings, so it's no longer a joke. So that's instantly like, they're like, oh God, this is real, And then on top of that, I'm talking about this current disclosure stuff. And then someone also asked me about my abduction stuff. And I left going, I think it was an affront to their belief system, like, they just weren't ready. I mean, yeah, they're going on a UFO tour. This will be fun. This is all a big joke. But when the sightings are real, and we're getting real, in this field, we're kind of like in a bubble. We're getting the information from each other, okay? And we're following what's going on. But you got to realize, John Q. Public out there isn't following the disclosure story. They don't know. They're still back 40 years ago thinking UFOs aren't real, they're a joke, and and that's changing, yes, but we all have a lot of work to do to present this to family, friends, coworkers, to the public, and present the facts, to talk about what's going on with disclosure, because you can then point them to information where they can look at the Gillibrand Amendment, and they can look at the vote that's gone on, and they can look at what Kirby, the spokesperson for the Pentagon, just said, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, or Lou Elizondo being interviewed by Tucker Carlson, or whatever. I'm just giving examples.
There's so much.
These are examples from the last 4 days.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is you can send them to those things and have them go, oh, whoa. So it's not that you're having to share your own story. You're not having to come under ridicule. You're saying, this is what's out there. This is mainstream. And then they'll go, oh, okay, and then they'll be more receptive to what you have to say or what you have to share, But I think we're so used to thinking, oh, well, we're getting disclosure and everybody's talking about it. No. In fact, I'm real good friends.
Yes.
With
yes. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you, thank you. I'm really good friends with Daniel Sheehan, who's Lou Elizondo's attorney, and I just spoke to Danny yesterday on the phone. Now, fortunately, I didn't get an update about Lou, and I wish I had, because now I'm sitting here going, "Oh man, I'm doing you and Vinny. I should have gotten an update. I could have shared." I'm like, dang it, But we're talking about something else that we're doing, but the reason I brought that up is I feel like one of the things, I didn't bring it up with Dan, but I will soon. I want to bring it up with Dan and say, no, I've never met Lou, and I would say, first off, I'd like to talk to him. But secondly, would you at least pass this on to him? There needs to be more public awareness. It's not reaching the public. People going on my tours have an interest in the subject. They'll say, "Oh, I follow this," or "I follow you, you followed you," or whatever. And when I ask them what they actually know or what they're actually following, I had a lot of people for a while, and the numbers of people who said they were up on the current disclosure stuff were going up. But when I actually asked them what they know, like they'll say, "Oh, the Tic Tac sighting, wasn't that in 47?" In other words, yeah, like they're hearing bits and pieces, but they're not telling the right story or consistently. And I mean, there's an awareness going up, but to say, "Oh, they know about this." Now, when I bring up the stuff going on in the House and the Senate, the Gillibrand Amendment, when I bring up even the Pentagon and what they did, nobody knows. And these are people going on my tour who have, some of them consider themselves very interested or following this subject. No, their knowledge is they watched Ancient Aliens 10 years ago, or they watched.
Yeah, a lot of people
I just had someone bring up, I follow this. I used to watch the X-Files all the time, and I'm like,
you bring up,
okay, never mind, that's fictional, But it's, but so you guys, and I want to say to Lou, you need to bring up the public awareness. You and Chris out there in the media even more, and other people. They're doing this with other people. Why are they the only ones in the media? There's other people. It's like,
oh yeah,
guys, you're a team of people doing this. I know that, etc. So there isn't the public awareness. We all think there is because we're hearing it from each other and we're all absorbed and following it all the time.
Yeah.
But if you guys came on my tour, it would be a real reality check that the public is clueless on this.
Yeah.
And yeah, if the president gets up and says something, that will make major news and start to shift. But a lot of people will instantly find every reason to not believe him or think it's wrong. Let's start with just the people who don't like Biden, or they're just going to go,
Right.
and then, and the Republicans, so you're going to have, and then the scientists are going to come out and say their thing. It needs to be in their face constantly, so that because the other thing is, people have been told and they've learned, don't follow the news, because that's a problem. We have an uninformed public because people say proudly, they're proud. I don't watch any news. I don't read any. I don't follow any. And they're proud of their, pardon me, you guys, I'm going to flat out say it. They're proud of their stupidity. They're proud. I don't know. And I'm proud that I don't know. You guys, that's a problem. You can't have informed voters.
It's an issue.
Without an educated public, without them knowing what they're voting on and why. And that's everything. That's not just this subject. But they don't know this subject, and they don't know what's happening in the news because they're proud of the fact that they're highly uninformed. You guys, that's a problem. So, but at least it is changing. So and when the president signs that, hopefully we'll get some new news coverage when he signs the NDAA, and which, by the way, we all know that's not just this. This is a tiny little thing slid in there, But I do believe we have to take, the moves ahead when they come, and by all means in this community, celebrate them, because it is meaningful to us, and it is a growing community. And it's now, I don't know if anyone's done real numbers, because so many of the shows and podcasts and interviews have the same audiences, but even if, but all in all, it's increasing. And awareness is increasing. Like I said, we celebrate the minor steps. We're a long ways away. Is this disclosure? It's a disclosure process. Can we say, are we in the process? Yeah. It's not disclosure yet. That's a long ways away.
But but it needs, I love it. And, I'm so happy to talk to you because my whole thing is like,
And I'm
I
happy to
don't
talk to
feel,
you.
but my whole thing is like, I shouldn't have to feel like I should hold this in. Like, I shouldn't have to feel like I should walk down the street. Like, I'm not harming anybody. I'm not like doing anything bad by talking about aliens and
No.
UFOs. If it's something, if you're asking me, hey, Amy, what's going on? Well, here's what I've been thinking about.
Well,
And I've been, and I just think a lot of people, they have a lot of trouble with even wanting to have those conversations. And I think that's why these communities are
well, if
so
you
on
think about it,
fire.
they've been programmed for literally, maybe even purposely by the CIA, programmed for so long to have a ridicule reaction to this subject. So ingrained that you guys, we can say that took 70 years to create. It might take 70 years to undo, you know. Now, I don't think it will. I think it'll undo quicker. But it's going to take patience. It won't be overnight. And we can all, everyone listening to this, you guys talk about this openly. I've heard you even, Amy, in some recent, like you were just saying, being afraid to talk about it and not talking about it outside of here, like you don't talk about it with your family or coworkers. I get it. But you guys, it starts with us disclosing first, because those people, as disclosure happens, they need somewhere to go for the information, and you can be a resource to them. So by opening up, be willing to have the ridicule, because this is going to move forward. And over the next couple of years, there's this funny picture somebody posts online of a little kid with like a smirk on his face and saying, going from being the ridiculed person in the family to their UFO expert or it's very funny. It's a meme. It's a meme that's out there. Maybe people have seen it, but it's very cute. If I find it, I should bring it up or something. But that's true. You're going to be that person eventually. So right now, but you guys, you can also arm yourself with the facts, with the evidence, with the statistics, with the history.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
thing the senior ufologists are kind of all, slightly miffed about, as this disclosure thing has gone forward and what's happened the last couple of years. There's a total ignoring of the history, prior to 2004, and that's when, you guys, that's when the significant crash retrievals happen. That spurred the, reverse engineering, program and development of technology. It's like, you guys, there's so much data and history, and then people go, well, how much, well, we don't think. I keep hearing this is, you guys are all saying this. Maybe not you,
Yeah.
but people are saying, so many people are out there saying this right now in this community. Oh, well, maybe they don't really know much. Maybe they don't really know much. You guys, 78 major crash retrievals, most of them with bodies on them. Get over that they don't know much. You guys, I'm a MILAB. I've worked with hundreds of people with military abductions. These are alien abductees, extraterrestrial abductees who get it picked up and interrogated by covert humans and taken to underground bases where we see fully intact operating craft, whether it's ET craft in our possession or stuff we've built and reverse engineered based on their technology. And people are seeing ETs, you guys, and I'm not talking a handful of abductees. I've worked with hundreds of people that have seen ETs and humans working together in these underground bases. You guys, if they're working with them, if one of those cases is right, just one, what do you bet out of hundreds? Yeah, I'd be willing to say I'll throw 20% out the window, maybe, okay? But if they've got physical evidence for their case, and this has happened to them multiple times, you need to listen to these people, because it tells you, and I'm not saying that's not the surface level of government, okay? Kit Green told Richard Dolan the breakaway civilization, okay? The breakaway civilization, but you guys, they're covered in the SAP, Special Access Programs, and the USAPs, Unacknowledged Special Access Programs, and that money's coming from the government. So somebody somewhere knows in mainstream, okay, that's allowing them to have the funding for that. Now, in some cases, could they be creating their own funding because the Black Project, but still, it goes through regular budgetary, practices. So you guys, Don't let them off the hook. Don't go, well, maybe they really don't know. You guys, yeah, are there people that don't know? Because their government is many people, many levels. And even at the highest levels, the president is not the highest level of security, right? He's very
Right.
low, actually. There's many levels above him. Does the director of the CIA know? Maybe, you know. Does Avril Haines, DNI, does she know more? I would bet good money she does. So you guys, you know, and the head of NASA. So there are people that know, and there are people that approve the funding for SAPs and USAPs. There are people that approve that get read in on things. It's not everyone, but you guys, there is crossover. So you have the surface level of government, the deep breakaway civilization, black ops, but there are strings connecting them. So you guys, and the people asking questions in the Senate who may not know, maybe they are starting to ask, you know, everyone knows, not everyone, but probably, you know, most of your viewers know, I know Jim Semivan, okay, headed to the stars, and we had become friends. I met through a client who went on my tour, who introduced me to him, and it's a long story, and we've had a lot of conversations. Okay, so I'll look at that comment in just a minute, but
let me just shout it out. John Music just gave a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, John. And he just said, Melinda, don't worry. There are now men like me in the disclosure movement who give 0 Fs and will keep telling and debating directly to bigwigs that non-human abduction hybrids are here now. I don't care who gets mad at me, obviously. We love you, John.
Yay, thank you, John.
John comes on the show quite a bit. And
a kindred soul.
Yes, he's cool. He's cool.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so what was I saying? So like I said, and Semivan looked into it and said, look, I know the mill labs are happening. I just don't know how they're being paid for, where that money's coming from. Now, he didn't know a lot about it, or, you know, if I'm believing what he said, but he at least looked into it and said, okay, it's happening, but how's it being funded? You know, and he worked very high level CIA and knew about budgeting and funding, you know, and he said this would have been out of his purview. You know, you even go to the controversial Wilson document, and you go to Wilson not knowing, like saying, this is out of my purview. They're not letting me look. So I think we have senators and congressmen who are coming across that kind of data and are finally starting to go, because, you know, we have a lot of newer elected people, you know, the old guard has been changing out over the last 20 years and stuff, you know, so you start to go, wait a second, there may be people really going, this is a problem, we need to look at it. And this is the beginning, because you got to peel that onion slowly to get there. Yes. And to be able to even ask the deeper questions, first they have to admit, okay, UFOs might be real. So that's where with them admitting that. But do some of those people know more and want to get to, like Jim asked me, how is that being paid for? What's going on there? I think, yeah, I would say that there's other individuals who know that. I have a feeling if Lou Elizondo or Chris Mellon were sitting here with us right now, they would say, yeah, they're asking, they want to ask that, but you got to start where you got to start. And, you know, I think we all know that. Someone said, what is the purpose of mill labs? Alien abductees are being used as another data mining point. They're wanting information from us. For instance, when they reverse engineer the craft, these craft work on consciousness. There's a mental interface component. Abductees are sat at the controls all the time. They're shown the technology. What if they're needing to know what we're doing, how we're doing it? How are we able to do it? How do we have the consciousness, the side component, to be able to operate the technology? Okay, that may be one. The other is they're using us in a hybrid program. The military guys, covert, you know, the mill labs, the military abduction is the acronym. And these guys in this black covert ops world may be also wanting to know, are we being changed genetically? Is our genetics different? You guys, they're looking at that at the surface level. You know, y'all just listen to this interview and whatnot with Gary Nolan, right? You know, I mean, that's at the surface level. They're asking these things and looking. Don't you think those guys that have been doing it, you know, I don't know, 60 years longer than Gary Nolan has, or have already been asking that, you know, in the deep black programs? So the abductees became worse. They can learn about the genetics from us. They can learn about the hybrid program from us. They can learn about how we're operating the technology from us. maybe they're always been looking into why are the abductions happening. Maybe they have the same, someone I work with, same questions. So we became a source of information. Like I call it data mining. They data mine us because it's hard. Yeah, there might be crash retrievals. There might have been some living aliens that died right away, whatever. I think they have a very limited amount of that, but there's a lot of us. And so they can get a lot of information from us. And ufology goes, well, we don't know if abductions are happening. And meanwhile, these guys are spending millions, if not billions, on picking up abductees, interrogating them, doing follow-up medical stuff with them. It's like, they know the answer to some of those questions. And again, we're talking deep black covert programs. But Sally van der Voorde, is that, I'm not sure I pronounced that, but that was a great question.
Definitely a great question. And Melinda, you're bringing up some really important things, especially when we talk about the deep state government, which is where a lot of this becomes really concerning, because we know that the UFOs are real, that the Pentagon confirmed them. And the weird thing is now we have Congress pushing the military. It's not the people, it's Congress. It's the people that the people have put into power.
Yay.
Who are asking the military branch to tell us. I mean, that's how deep it goes. The politicians don't know. Maybe they heard about it, but I don't think they knew. Just like and that's how deep it goes, because who is behind that curtain, right?
That's my point.
Right?
Some of them may know, because you go back to that process. Now, Lord knows I'm not an expert on how the SAP USAP process works. But somewhere along the way, there's somebody knowing something or being briefed on something. Some of them are read in. And, again, I don't know who knows how much, but I can tell you from my MILAB experiences, from the research, from the cases I work with, from the senior, I got really involved in the whole Roswell thing for a while, because I was working with the late Stanton Friedman and Don Schmidt, because I had a Roswell witness, which everything validated that he was legit, and it needs a little further investigation. And he had some significant, not smoking gun pictures, but yet some significant pictures that he had taken. And fortunately, those came forward right when Slidegate happened, which was a huge kind of debacle. It's a long story, but the pictures of what turned out to be not a creature, but a child, a praying Indian child in a museum. Okay, but because of that, they were really hesitant to go forward with pictures, at least not a picture that wasn't a smoking gun picture kind of thing. But now I want to go back to Don Schmidt, who's a dear friend, and we talk from time to time. And I want to say, Don, maybe this July I need to go with you to Roswell, because there's one picture of a street in Roswell, and if we can line up the buildings and the trees in the park that are in this picture, then we can prove that this was taken there, and then and then go from there. But anyway, so there we go. But the reason I brought that up is, for instance, the late Stanton Friedman and Don Schmidt and Tom Carey and stuff. It's like you go back to 300 firsthand witnesses to Roswell, and the amount of evidence and the amount of story and personal insight from those witnesses. It's and I can understand, like I said, senior researchers in this field getting frustrated with, they're not, like I said, they're not looking at the history. That evidence isn't being brought forward, all that kind. But we'll get there. Again, it's the beginning of a long process, and we'll get there. I recently said online, you probably saw it, and a lot of other people, we have to hold their feet to the fire. That's our job in ufology, is making sure that they keep going forward, that they look deeper, because at least if they're talking about it, and then we do our job to present the evidence, just like what was presented already to this congressman, the Senate, in this closed door sessions, that made them go where they've gone now. Well, we need to present more. You guys, those aren't the only military witnesses. There's a lot of them. And unfortunately, the Roswell ones are gone, but there's still a few, like family member and whatnot. And there's all those interviews that exist on tape. I mean, you guys, what could come out if they pursue this, and them meaning Congress, the Senate, if they really pursue this and it goes further, the amount of data that could come out, I think they're about to be very overwhelmed, like they've been overwhelmed already with what was presented to them. I mean, I wasn't in those sessions, but I can only imagine what was presented that's made them bipartisan, take this seriously, to create new laws about it. You guys, does everyone understand historically in ufology how huge that is? I never dreamt in my life we'd be here. And I'm so happy
exciting.
we are. But it's the beginning of a lot of work. Anyways, we're here to talk about contact. It's easy to get really sidetracked on this stuff.
No, but I feel that's exactly where my mind was going too. Just how, for so long before the Pentagon confirmed that UFOs were real, all of us were just these, not just like crazy, because we thought somebody saw something, or we saw something ourselves, and then lo and behold, the government says it's real. So and it's like, it's just point. Like, well, now we got to keep going. They're lying about all sorts of other stuff. Exactly.
Melinda? It's such a good point. And everyone, please understand my frustration. On my tours, we see satellites too, and we talk about that. But then, you guys, we've seen structured craft, things. We had a craft over us, a big triangle that my clients thought was about 300 feet in diameter and only about 300 feet above us. Okay. So you go, and that's just one of, we've seen full structured craft 57 times, 58 times. The one we just had one, myself and a client, I have to remember the date, but it was, about a week ago now. I'd have to really think about the date. I have it written down somewhere, but about a week ago. And we saw a structured craft. Oh, I do remember now, because it was the same night, because I had to do a ton of research and ask some scientists, people in the field, because I wanted to make sure that what I saw and what my clients and I saw couldn't have been, because it was on December 2nd, which was the link of the Starlink. Okay, the launch, I should say. SpaceX sending up another rocket of Starlink satellites. And the next night, the Starlink satellite chain went over us. But I thought, could we have seen something that was part of the launch? But I had to do extensive research and ask people, and what we saw does in no way fits. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong direction, everything. So thank God. But I had to be a good researcher and say, I have to be able to say unequivocally, that there was no way we could have seen that, and do the research to then go, okay, nothing we saw fits any of that. So we saw something else. But my point being, when I said the frustration is, you're talking to someone here. Okay, first off, I have had with my clients 58 structured craft that I've seen. I've seen easily another 25 in my life. Okay. So let's say we're looking at, 75, structured craft that I've personally seen. And some of those very dramatic sightings, and quite a few of them, not only with my clients, but some of the others were with other people as well. And that's outside of anything I've seen in an abduction. No, in conscious life or whatever regular day-to-day stuff, have I seen a landed craft? No. But in my abductions, I have. And I've been with other people who have had the abduction with me who also recall the same event. I'm not the only one recalling it. And then also with the MILAB events, seeing, which I have seen myself, government and aliens working together. So I have to have a lot of patience when I'm hearing people ask these questions, and the frustration that I have, because I'm in a unique position to have some sense of what's going on. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm never going to say I know exactly what's going on and why, because I don't. And I have a lot of questions, but I know what I've seen. I know the parts that I know, but those just sometimes bring up more questions, anyways, but I encourage everyone out there, definitely share this with everyone. We're getting disclosure, don't use
Mm-hmm.
use that as your shield, use that as your battling ram, what I hate to use negative language, but um, let that be your guidance and point to that to turn people onto the subject, you know. And then if they ask more questions and you want to share your own sighting or your own abduction, you can. But meanwhile, you can point them to the data that's out there on the public record, that will cause a lot of people. I mean, like I said, I think I had some clients recently who were just, they had a negative reaction to it, and that's rare, because luckily most of my clients are like, thank you for informing us. Now we'll follow it. We know what to look for. Where can we go see this? And I usually tell them, I said, well, I post everything on Twitter and Facebook. I usually say, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And, that's where I put stuff. Anyways, I know I keep saying we're going to talk about
No,
contact. About
no, no,
just
no. We're talking about it all. This is why my show's different. This is why it's fun. I like to just kind of get to know Melinda. What's Melinda thinking? You're a powerhouse of ufology, been doing stuff for decades, worked with Stan Friedman, worked
yeah,
with all sorts of different people.
yeah.
So contact, yes. Your contact experiences are
Okay.
what?
Yeah.
What do you? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's still complicated because there's so much. I don't know if I should start the beginning, like how I figured it out, or if I should jump into the deep end and do some hybrid stuff. What do you want?
Misty
She's
says it's all relevant.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'll do a brief kind of how I got into it thing. But see, every story is complicated, and I have a lot of conscious memory of my experiences. Like I said, I've been taken with other people who also remember it, so I also have their recall. And then I also have had, of course, regressive hypnosis. Not to go like, oh, is there an experience there? No, I usually start with what's partial memory of one or physical evidence for one,
Interesting.
and then I get regression for the details that I'm blocked on. Um, and I've been very, very blessed to work with some really, really good regression therapists.
That's a
I
huge
tell everyone,
distinction to make too,
mhm,
that I don't think a lot of people understand. I mean, surely that of seeing the evidence of having the memory before you go into hypnotic regression, there's a pretty good misconception that people already have that they don't know, and then they go into,
no, no,
you know
no,
what I mean?
no, that's not usually the case at all. In fact, I would say it's not the case at all, or very rarely the case. Usually, it's someone who has a partial memory. Um, uh, Maybe missing time, maybe physical evidence, maybe scars that appear on their body overnight. It's usually a whole combination of stuff. I have clients, I get this all the time, even from clients on my tour who want to talk to me or talk to me after the tour. The other night I sat with someone in the car for an hour after the tour. Actually, with my last tour a couple nights ago, she sat in my car and wanted to really ask me about it. And she started to relay, and people say, well, I've had this, and I had this missing time, I had this weird memory, and my family and I, and then I had these dreams like this, and I had these marks on my body, and I have this unexplained scar, and da 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 da. And they'll line up all this stuff that you or I, or most people in this field familiar, would go, wow, clearly they're having abductions. And then they'll go to, I don't, what's happening to me? Could it be abduction? Well, someone like that who has this stuff in their family, and dreams and marks on their body, and a glowing handprint on their wall in their room, and then that's someone I'm going to say, you are a perfect candidate for regressive hypnosis. Because, or if they go, this one night I remember this happening in my room, and the next day I found this in my room. I'm like, or they'll say, I have this brief memory or this dream I keep having about being on an exam table, or whatever, whatever part they're remembering. And then again, that's the good candidate to say, you're already having parts of the memory, you already have some evidence for it. That's a good time to go look and say what has happened. Because whether your trauma or your fear is blocking, this, bye. Sorry, someone I work with is, bye, honey. Sorry. I work with such cool people, very cool people. And and then she said, now, here's someone who thought all the abduction stuff out there is really negative, and so I'm afraid to get the memory See, she's literally said, I don't know if I want to remember because I don't want to remember something bad or scary. And I was like, well, most people find this, and and you guys, this is true. This is true. I can cite a bunch of different research studies, not just Freeze, because I know people have question about that as as biased. Okay, but you can go to the MUFON and the MIT study and whatnot, and John Mack's work. Okay, and overwhelmingly, abductees feel this is transformative, positive in their life, educational. They've been given information, technical information, data, a greater understanding of math or science, an understanding of the earth and the environment, psychic ability, psychic training, consciousness expansion. I mean, overwhelmingly, abductees see this as a positive thing in their life. So it's thanks to the media that there's this negative take that makes someone like her saying, I don't want to know if something scary happened. And so she avoids and won't even look at the obvious. I mean, I have a list of 65 traits on the website that me and another abductee put together that help people determine if they've had experiences. She brought up on her phone, sitting in the car with me, and started to go through it and was like, yes, 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 yes. And I said, if you answer yes to over 40, that's highly significant and probably means you've had an experience. If you answer yes to 20 things or less on the list, it probably means you're having paranormal events, but not necessarily abduction related. Well, she started to say yes to so many things. She started to go, oh my God, like the realization. But I could already tell from her conversation with me, she was hitting, like I said earlier, those key indicators. She was hitting a bunch of them. So wow. It's like, and I said, no, don't be afraid to look. You might recall a very transformative educational experience. And a good hypnotherapist is there to help you get beyond the fear.
So did you see the Demi Lovato?
Not all experience, I'll get to that in just a minute. Not all experiences are traumatic or frightening. People do have positive experiences. I'm not going to say people don't have negative experiences too. But some people who have a negative experience don't look further and they recall one event or two, and they're not getting regressed over others, because you guys, if there's smoke, there's fire. If you have one or two experience, you have a lifetime of this. That's the way it works. Even some of the famous cases that you hear are one-time events are actually a lifetime of experiences. But you're talking about the Hills or Travis or anybody. Okay. It keeps happening. Okay. So here's the deal. You're not alone if you've had it happen. It is positive and transformative. It may take you years of work to come to terms with it, because you have to get over a lot of psychology and fear and hesitation and everything that you might have. Now, some people don't. Some people get regression right away. They're much better with it. But then I've also as an abductee, there are times when I'm okay with it, okay with being an abductee, and okay with being, a spokesperson or whatever. And then there's times where I'm this close to pulling out of the field. Because
interesting.
Like when I read those reviews, you start to go, why am I doing this? Is it
right.
worth it?
Right.
And I tell everyone, when you talk about it, especially in a community like this, a lot of the people who are drawn to this community are drawn to it because they've had the experience themselves. It's so, again, the numbers are so high that realize you're definitely not alone, and you're helping a lot of people by talking about it. So I encourage other abductees to talk, come forward, be open about it, especially in a safe environment like this. Will there be naysayers? Yeah. Will you get some attack? Like I said, I read those reviews and stuff, I mean, yeah. And I'm not going to lie to you, it is tough. But you realize, you're helping and educating people. You're educating other people. Yeah, it's tough. But and then also you're getting help, because once you get in like a support group setting, or even in a chat room or whatever, where you're getting other people, and all the various, thank God, wonderful abduction support groups on Facebook now, and people can share, and a lot of people are supportive. You guys, that will help you so much. So by sharing your account and then getting the feedback, yeah, you might get some negative, but you'll get so much overwhelmingly positive to know you're not alone, and that other people are having the same stuff as you. And you guys, there is tons of physical evidence. There's tons of witness accounts. You know, just educate yourself. If you go, well, what is that? What is that? Show it. It's not my job to educate you. You need to go do the research, read the books, watch the interviews, look at the past tapes of old conferences when the giants in this field have stood up and spoken about it, whether they're an abductee who went public or a researcher working on it. You guys, there's a ton of data. You guys, you got to see it like you're all going for the master's program now. If you're going for a master's in college, how much reading and study and educating and testing would you have to do? Guess what? You're there. You're in ufology college. Okay.
See, and I love what you're saying, because when I get people who come on the show and they're very scientific minded, I love to corner them, and I love to be like, hey, do you think that there's intelligent life somewhere out there in the cosmos? And they always fall back on pretty much in some ways what you're saying, which is the Drake's equation. The statistical probability of there being aliens is there. And kind of what you're saying. And I feel that way like when I read John Mack's Abductions. It's so many. There's so many that are the same and similar. And the numbers are so much more in our favor to say that they're real.
Yeah. And, people on
Thank you, Misty, for the super chat.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. People on opposite sides of the planet and opposite cultures report the same experiences happening. Now, there isn't that much data out there. In fact, most of these people, when you actually talk to them, if they're new to it, they're not looking at the data and reading all the books about it. In fact, when I first started working with Dr. Deborah Trincali and thought I was losing my mind, she said, do me a favor, don't read anything. And I know Yvonne Smith says this to people. And I bet Kathleen and everybody else does. They say, do not read anything. Don't look at it. Because once you have, you're going to question what you're remembering. Well, what I'm remembering is so similar to what I read. Maybe it colored my memory and it'll trip you up. So they literally say, don't read it. Not at first. You got to recall a bunch of memories first, get clearer on what's happened, bring up your evidence, talk about it with an investigator, with researchers. I mean, I've had many investigators work on my case, and you go, okay, and then go to the support group or something to realize when you bring that stuff up, 20 other people raise their hand and go, yeah, I had that too, but if you start reading, you're not going to trust your memories and your memory recall. So don't let it influence you, and I know all the significant researchers in the field have said that pretty much all along. I mean, the ones, we're doing work and therapy and regression with abductees have certainly all said that. Someone just asked me something about cattle mutilations. What was that question?
Yeah. They said, do you think that UFOs are involved in cattle mutilations?
Yeah, well, they're seen in conjunction with it all the time. I mean, they're seen dropping the cattle down, raising them up, being in the area the night before, the night after, So clearly there's a connection. I'm not saying all cattle mutilations are, because how would we know? But there are a lot of cattle mutilations where UFOs are seen in direct conjunction with the event. Sure. So I think there's absolute correlation to at least some of them. Okay, let's put it that way. Trouble is there's no proof, no matter how much data. Well, you guys, proof is subjective anyway. So truth is there's no proof for anything.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like for instance, okay.
What is evidence? Okay, that's guys, a good question.
Okay. Now I'm not holding this up necessarily because it's a cell phone, but you go, okay, you can go, this is hard. This is solid. I know this is solid piece of thing. You put this under electron microscope and guess what? You're wrong. There's nothing solid about it. There's no such thing as solid. Okay. It all has space between. Okay. So there's no such thing as a solid thing. So you go, so guess what? You were wrong. So anyone who says there's no proof. It's like, you can't even prove to me that this is solid, because if you actually set out to prove it, you wouldn't be able to, because it's not solid. Okay, do you get my point? So what I'm saying is proof is subjective. Don't let anyone trick you up with that wording. Okay, what you go to is what is the evidence. What wins a court case is the predominance of evidence. That's the legal language, a predominance of evidence. So you go, what is the predominance of evidence? Can I give you a predominance of evidence for abductions, for MILABs, for alien abduction, for contact? for sightings, there's a predominance of evidence, overwhelming. But you can't prove anything, because even what you think you can prove
proof is
turns out to
subjective.
be,
Yeah.
and also turns out to be wrong later.
Well, it also turns out to be kind of like who says yes to this, right? Like we have Avi Loeb, who was talking about Oumuamua being the extraterrestrial satellite, which I still think it is. And, you know, the only reason we listen to him is because he's the the astrophysicist department. Sorry if I got it wrong, but he's a big academic department head at Harvard for,
you guys,
astrophysics.
academic people are having abductions. I know doctors who've had abductions. I know astrophysicists who have had abductions. I know biologists who have had abductions. I know
politicians,
pilots
right?
who've had abductions. Politicians.
That one president,
so you guys,
yeah.
Now they're at risk of their career still, so they're not talking about their experiences. But the major abduction researchers work with those people. They come to them, famous people who are, famous people, sports figures, actors, famous singers, politicians, like you said, who are afraid that, this will be the death of their career. Now that'll change. And as soon as it becomes more okay, you're going to start to hear from these people. You guys, at some point, the floodgates are just going to open on this. And I look forward to when that happens. But we're at the first wave of that. So what we can do is talk about it and be validated later. Have your family and your friends appreciate your coworkers later, because they will, especially if you're young, because you're probably going to see it in your life, because you'll still be around in 30 years when they'll be able to say, oh my God, you're right all along. And maybe not. Maybe it'll take 10 years. I don't know how long it'll take. But you guys, it ain't going to happen overnight. So everybody, cool your horses, have some patience. The work has just begun. The work has just begun. And we got to hold everyone's feet to the fire. Don't let them get off easy. Don't let them say, like everyone in the ufology is already saying, without those looking into it, they're not saying this at the government level. It's ufology people and the young people in ufology who are saying, well, maybe they don't really know. I have a better idea. Say, we're going to assume you know everything. Tell us, damn it. And we're going to march on the streets if you don't.
Yeah,
guys,
it's getting to that point. It's getting to that point. It's already there. That I never thought that my little interest in ufology would have me maybe going to a protest one day, but it very well might. I don't know. If I know that the government, I mean, it's getting kind of annoying. I think I might just make a poster and go hang out with hashtag UFO Twitter friends. And
we're not there yet. And it could be negative media attention right now. So, but at some point, and have people done that in the past in this field? Yes. There have been marches on this subject. There's been stuff. So, there's some pretty good ones, that have happened. So, could that happen again? It's very likely. I think it's probable. And the numbers will be higher. Because again, you guys, it's the beginning of a process. What was the process that changed voting for women? What was the process that changed voting for blacks, or anyone? Okay. What was the process to end segregation? You guys, these things can take years, and you can go to protest or battle over it. Okay. You guys, we're going to have to fight for this subject and fight for the truth and demand it, but don't go, oh, well, maybe they don't really know anything, when all the evidence suggests that they have a lot of data, recovered alien bodies, recovered technology. Don't let them off the hook. Say, okay, if you don't know, you've asked the people that do, because the guy sitting next to you in the Senate knows, and it's been briefed. So you need to turn to all your other fellow senators and say, what the bleep do you know about this?
Exactly.
Why aren't you telling? But we're there. Sorry.
I like Marco Rubio. No, girl, you're speaking my truth. What are you talking about? I'm finally someone else who gets it. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean. And happy birthday, Gordium.
Okay. Do I admire what Marco Rubio's doing about this? Yeah, sure. Birthday. But I have not always agreed with him politically. Okay. But I can say politics. Hey, Gary.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for the super chat. And happy birthday to Gordium 85.
Gary's one of my adopted sons, because.
Oh, nice.
No, yeah, I had a little something to do with unleashing these guys in ufology, and I've never been prouder, Gary. I'm proud of you, like being proud of a son, that's for sure. And love, absolutely love you. You know that. Um, yeah, absolutely love him and all the other military witnesses, and I'm very, very, very proud of these guys, and so happy to have played a small part in helping them get out there into the community, which I once did.
Which is where
And
that passion comes from, like that's why it's important to feel passionate about it. That's why it's okay to talk about it.
that's
Linda,
right.
you inspire me too, because it's so easy to put the flame out. Just put the flame out, pretend it never existed, pretend you never had
Well,
some sort of question, you know what I mean? Or
and
or
even
you
though,
just
like I said, I catch some flack, even when I do those panels with Grant, I get some attack, but even with the attack aside, I get so much support. And what I have to do is go, you know what? Is it worth it? And granted, there are times when I question that, and there are days of tears, but then there's days where I go, yeah, and my courage, my sticking in it is going to inspire someone else too. And I know I hear it from abductees all the time. I know I inspire those people, but it's not all easy by any means. But I tell people, and I've got amazing friends and amazing support in the field that if I'm ever in that place, I know whether it's another abductee or whether it's one of the researchers in the field, they'd be so quick to go, what the hell's wrong with you? Get over it. you know, like we need you, and they do. And so those come right at the right time, and the appreciation from clients, but I can't say it's, I'm not going to say it's all easy. It can get tough, but I tell people, you do it because it's the right thing to do. And because we are that front wave, like I said, to change. And you think of the people, any great turn that's come in world history, certainly in US history, like I think of the whole equal rights and women's rights and all those things. And you think, people had it tough on the front wave of all these movements, and so we're on the front wave of this movement,
right.
and luckily things are starting to change, but that's also frustrating because it's a slow change. But you go back to those movements, how much did they have to go through for change? And you go, am I ready to do what those people did? Can I have the strength and courage that they did? I guess I have to. I guess we all do.
Well, yeah, we got to be brave. We got to be brave. We got to just say, hey, I think this is real. I'm I'm a normal person, legitimate person who thinks that this is real. And there are plenty of people who, if they just say it, just like, I think that's what's
Well,
so
and
fascinating
share,
about it.
and share your experience with it. Again, if you're abductee, contactee, experiencer, whatever you label yourself, if you're a witness, if you're a military witness like Gary, I know it's been nothing but rewarding for him. I remember Gary, and Gary would come on and admit this. Okay. I had to twist his arm. Okay. I was doing serious arm twisting of these guys to get him to speak at a conference. Okay. And once they did, the support was so overwhelming, the encouragement, they met major researchers in the field, and their lives just went into that, with the exception of someone like Patrick, who did, but his family, for a lot of personal reasons, family and job, he had to pull back. Okay, but I get that. But these other guys, and do they regret it? No. And it's not all easy, but they're heroes. Talk about the first wave.
We
hey,
got John Music here. He has he came on, he wants to jump on, ask a couple questions. John is a big sponsor of the channel, so thank you, John.
Hi, John.
Number one, for being a cool dude and a cool friend and a big sponsor
Ladies,
of the
how
channel.
are you?
Good.
Man,
what's good? What's good?
Your beard, your eyes, your eyebrows, you have a great look, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh no, you do, man. It's great.
And John knows what's up. Like Melinda, like we're talking.
Like, TV or something with that look. Do you do some acting or anything? You should.
Never. I'm probably one of the only people in the UFO movement that's never been on radio, TV, or the three letter agencies, or the government, or producer, or done the lecture circuits, or wrote a book. I'm just a concerned citizen, a concerned father.
Well, thank you for that. But man, you have a great look, and
Thank
if
you.
you ever get asked to do something like that, say yes, because you have a great.
I definitely will. Yeah, because I want Disclosure Moon to move forward, even if that means sacrificing myself and making more people not like me. I don't give a shit.
I was gonna say,
But I've been
solidarity.
Yeah, I've been watching you talk on Grant Cameron's show for many years.
Thank you.
And I've been watching Grant Cameron stuff for many years. I've made comments on some of his shows in the past, trying to get in touch with him and talk to him, but I've never gotten any response. I know he's a busy guy, and probably because he doesn't want to talk to somebody who's just a concerned citizen. That wouldn't help disclosure at all.
I think he will. You nailed it. He's just busy and overwhelmed, and
right.
I am on speed dial on my phone, but I realize he's just so busy. So I don't even talk to him that often, except for once in a while, and I usually have pretty good reason to call him when I do.
Right.
I'm grateful that he's a dear friend and supports me so much. Hey, I say things that first off, I'm passionate about the subject and excited about it. And yeah, when I do his panels,
Definitely.
I do talk over people and stuff. And some of it is because of delay in the sound, or whatever, but it's also, I'm passionate and I want to engage people in conversation, and panels are like, wait your turn to talk. And sometimes I have to remind myself of that. So I apologize to everyone. That's something I'm learning to do in that situation. But I'm also like, gosh, I wish sometimes those panels were just a free for all, like, let's get into discussion. And we're all mindful. We're going to let each other talk and stuff,
right.
but I do. So, so I learned from the comments there, and I learned from it. But I also realize it's like, whether it's the fact that I'm heavy, I'm middle-aged, I'm a woman. I mean, women in this field, you guys, sexism and ageism is unfortunately alive and well in this field, and every woman knows it.
Right.
And
if you look around YouTube right now, it's not fair, but nobody ever said life was fair.
That's
and
right.
If you look around YouTube, the people that accelerate their memberships the fastest, I'm very blunt. I'm going to tell you, they're the ones who have the most either handsome and good looking look, like movie star looks as a guy, or they're the women that look the most traditionally, stereotypically beautiful and hot. They have their subscriber base multiplies exponentially.
Yeah.
Whereas people who are not that genetically lucky, or just don't give a shit about their look that much, or they don't have the time or the money, they don't accelerate as fast, and they don't get hardly any super chats. And it's not fair. But like my grandparents told me when I was a kid, life is not fair.
Yeah.
And I know how it feels both ways. I've been in both positions in life, so I know exactly how that feels.
And you have to be so outspoken as a woman in this field, and you've got to be thick-skinned and take the slings and arrows, And I sure appreciate, like, Amy, you're having a voice, you're stating your stuff, and I think you've got a good attitude that even if you came under attack, you'd be like, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it, And so you just...
If she came under attack, there'd be like an army of guys and girls out there like me that would like totally shut down all the haters, like immediately, like they'd be in big trouble.
And I'm grateful to my army, Yeah, no, and I'm grateful. I got my army too, and I'm grateful.
I know. I've seen them because there's a lot of haters out there on the other channels that have been really, really unfairly mean to you, and I've been seeing it going on for years, and they need to shut the F up.
Yeah, but I also have so many supporters, and like I said, my army.
Thank God, yeah.
Too, and and sometimes you just got to say, look, I'm speaking the truth, and I'm gonna come out there with the evidence, and facts, and try to present this in the best light.
Right.
I could story tell and share abduction, and we'll get to that maybe, but I'm just saying, it's like storytelling is storytelling, and then the people go, well, what's the evidence for it? But when I say let's talk the evidence, I get people who maybe don't want to do that, and it's like,
right. Did you see the recent?
Damned if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
But again, I encourage the women out there, speak up. If you're doing research on this, if you know your stuff. I mean, Amy, your learning curve is like, and and then it comes to bear. So every conversation adds to the next,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and everybody
Right.
had to start somewhere. I mean, I think back 32 years ago and go, where did I start? You know, and for the first half of that, I knew nothing, and so I realize there's a learning curve, and there's a lot to learn and a lot to study and a lot to read, and you dive into it and you learn it, and you know it says the
Right.
UFO Garage will always have Melinda back. Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you.
Melinda, about abductions. There used to be some more information. A lot of things are getting either deleted or taken down off the internet. But there used to be other researchers claiming that only 1% of abductions are actually ever officially reported. So the actual
Yeah.
genuine numbers of abductions per year globally
Yeah.
could be orders of magnitude greater than any of us ever thought.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
wanted to see what you think about that and how are we ever going to get this in mainstream news? Because I don't think they're ever going to allow that. Not ever.
well, I agree with you, and I think the numbers are much higher. That's why I cited,
Good.
the Roper poll results that happen, and there's major abduction research organizations that have tens of thousands of cases in their files, and certainly others with hundreds or thousands of cases in their files, and those are research investigated cases. So the numbers are much higher than anyone knows, and as they're going to people those people, as disclosure continues, because you guys, I don't think anything's going away, especially if we do our job to hold their feet to the fire and to keep on them and to say, what else, what else, what else, what else, get them to crash retrievals, get them to recovered alien bodies, get them
Right.
to the reverse engineering program and what's covered up in the USAPs, and get them to the abduction phenomena. We'll get there
We're going to have
eventually.
to get their first baby steps, like Richard Dolan is saying, right? Before we can ever get to abductions or hybrid
Yeah.
children.
No, absolutely. But meanwhile, people, when they hear stuff, are going to go there and ask. So they'll come to this community asking those questions. Are we going to get it from the mainstream? No, not for a long time. But we're going to
Hell no.
but we're going to be asked more and more in this community. I mean, for
Yeah.
instance,
And
this contact week, because contact needed to be addressed. Yay, James Ian Doley. He's absolutely right. And contact means many things. Everything from people doing CE5 related work, making contact, to people already having sightings, to people who are military witnesses who, tongue tied, sorry, who have either had sightings and
right.
or been involved in crash retrievals or whatever, and whatever their version, type of contact is, and then of course the experiencers, abductees,
Well, in
contact
your
means.
opinion, what is it going to take, Melinda? Because I've been asking all the famous people, and you're one of them. You're a legend in the community. So I want to ask, what is your opinion?
Not,
What the
not
hell?
hardly. I'm only a legend in here.
No,
No, we see it.
millions of people know all about you.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you. I want to
Thank you.
ask you, what is it going to take? Because
Okay.
now that people like me are on Twitter, I'm not shy or bashful at all. I'm very extroverted, so I'm going out there and I'm going to Twitter bombing people that are very famous, very powerful, very well connected, and telling them about the non-human reality. I don't care if they get mad at me, because the worst that they can do is shut my account down. I don't give a shit. But somebody that's well connected like you, that has decades of research, and you're a lot more than just a concerned civilian.
Mhm.
What needs to get done to have Avril Haines or the Secretary of Defense, somebody like that, to go on TV and use the actual word non-human?
Great question.
Well, I would have
Thank you.
said, a year ago, I wouldn't expect him to say extraterrestrial, and you had the, the head of NASA has now said it a couple times, as Avril Haines has. So you
Yeah,
go,
why'd the New
wow.
York Times try to dial that back?
So
That was
saying not
really sneaky.
non-human, it could happen tomorrow, and I wouldn't, because of what's happened so far, I almost wouldn't be surprised now. But what we can do to help get there, is support what's going on so far, and like I said, make sure they take it to the next level. So I think that's our job in this community. Keep pressing it like we've already done to get them where they are, but press it further and make sure, we need to get to open hearings, congressional
Exactly.
hearings. Congressional hearings, and that won't cover everything. We may not get to the non-human. We may not get to ETs recovered or anything for a while. But
I
my
know.
God, you guys, there's already language out there about the crash retrievals, and now we have the information regarding medical effects and everything. I mean, I'm just dumbfounded that we're even there. So I think we can just keep pressing it, make sure it keeps moving and rolling forward. Let's turn this thing into a steamroller, going over
So
everything.
why did Kirsten Gillibrand go on a few hours ago? I've been messaging her directly. Why did she go on there and say that her amendment was completely gutted behind her back, even though they promised they wouldn't do it? They told her to respect the process, in her words. And then she said they went behind closed doors and gutted everything out. So she said she has to start over from scratch now.
Okay, well, when you've read it, it's not completely gutted, or did it just come back to the? I mean,
She said she had to go back out on the floor and try to redo it. Now, maybe I'm misreading it because, like I said, I'm not an expert like you and Grant Cameron. But she said it was gutted. She seemed very, very pissed off. And I've been messaging her that this is messed up. I hope the message gets out.
It's out there for people to read, and there were a few minor changes. I mean, depending on who you talk to, whether they were major or minor changes, but I think even if there were significant changes, there were minor things in the overall. So unless something has happened in the last 48 hours that I don't know about, which is quite possible.
She just tweeted it. She just tweeted it this afternoon, and I was right on it immediately.
Got approved, and the version that got approved, 370 or 360 to 70 votes or whatever, that one that passed the House is out there, and that's the approved one.
So you're talking about, so you think maybe the Senate did something, or maybe they took the language out behind closed doors that required the three letter agencies and all the different departments to, and probably they made it optional instead of required. They might have done something very sneaky like that. What do you think?
I don't know what's happened since that got approved. I don't think the Senate, it was written by her and senators. It goes to them, to the House. Okay.
Right.
The House approved it. Now it goes back to the Senate for the approval, unless they've done additional stuff to it. But if that happened, that just happened like the last 24 hours, and I don't know.
Yeah, it did. It just happened. It just happened. Apparently, based on what she's saying today, I'm just basing all this not off my opinion, only off of what she said. She seemed really mad.
Yeah, well, I'll have to go look at what was said.
Wait, no, what happened? Wait, what specifically, John?
Okay, I put the link at the beginning of your live chat so everybody can do it. I did it on UCR too, but UCR rather on UCR he says that it probably was not relating to UAP. When it was gutted, it was related to a different part of it. So obviously we all hope that he was right. And
she could be mad,
but she seemed very mad.
Well, I know that there's some problem and concern with the part that was left out. That's going to, my understanding, I have limited understanding of this, but it's going to come up for a separate vote, which was the victims' rights stuff, and she could be talking about that. So
God willing, that's what it was, because we're not going to stand for this.
Yeah, because that was removed, and I was hearing she was very upset about that. It'll come up for a separate vote. And it's victims' rights to, was it sexual harassment within the military and victims' rights or something. I'm not following all the other mainstream parts, so I have no business really commenting on them because I don't know. But I hope that her comments were not about the UAP portion. If something else additionally happened there, that's news to me. So I'll do a little research online. But being that I haven't heard about it, I don't know.
Right. And Lou Elizondo has already made comments on interviews about abductions. He sort of hinted that is assault because it's done without consent. I was wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Okay. It gets very complicated because on one hand you can say, yeah, sure, but that's also putting it an instant negative spin, and it behooves him, and I get it. I get the threat narrative stuff because that's how they're getting people to pay attention.
He's got to get the funding, right? He has to get the funding.
Yeah. And I totally understand that. I don't necessarily approve, but I get why. Okay. So for that, I'm willing to go, okay, I understand why. And so I could see why he'd want to spin it that way, because it's part of that coherent story to cause them to, pay attention. And if it means abductions will be talked about because they get into this, but see, first they got to admit there's ETs before they can get into abductions. So we're a long ways away from that. On this same note, now I'm hearing music. Is there, Amy, are we coming up on ending or something? I'm hearing music. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Amy, you're muted. Are you there?
Yes, I am here. I was putting on some music, just some jams. We're getting to about 1:45. Okay. I was, gonna be like,
okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so we're just listening to some music, but keep going. I don't like to end like people's thoughts, but
yeah. Well,
but
no, I
got some
that was a subtle
on.
hint that like.
No, it's not a subtle hint. It's just I usually get around the 2 hour mark or
lights,
so.
Dimming the lights, time to leave the restaurant.
Right.
Little strobe. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Melinda, do you think that in order to get a lot more funding and traction in Congress and from society in general, Mr. Elizondo, I've been hearing he might go down the route that what the Me Too movement did for women's rights. He might go down that route that if it's assault because they're touching you or taking you without consent, he would use the same playbook as other people have used for other civil rights, and he could get a lot more money and attention that way. What do you think? Or is that just a rumor?
Think, John, I think it's so far away from going there in the conversation right now because they can't bring up, people are being assaulted till they bring up who's doing the assaulting, and that would have to be bringing up the ET presence, like you said, non-human, and we're not there yet. So when we get there, could it come up then? Yes. But he's going to answer a question now if flat out asked, the way he thinks he needs to answer it. And I think he's being very thoughtful. That doesn't mean he won't say something and get off an interview and go, oh, duh, why did I do that? He probably does. But, and he also knows what he can't say within his NDA. And I think sometimes he comes real close to slipping up there, but so far I think he's being very thoughtful. I'm not going to take something he says out of context because again, he's a human being. He could slip. He could say something, regret it later, whatever. And so, but
plus they probably want to have a permanent office with hundreds of billions of funding one day. And if you want to do that, you have to get everybody's attention.
Yeah. So, we're starting with, craft in the air, military safety, and all those things that they've already started with. And I get it. I get the slow approach. I get why. I guess I agree with how it's being handled. On the same note, I'm going to go ahead and go public with something a little premature.
Let me turn off the music then. Okay. Yeah. You're going public with something that might.
We all want to hear this. Yeah.
A little prematurely, but I think it's so in alignment with what we're discussing right now. I got worried about abductee contactee rights, and I'm going to throw in the whistleblowers, military witnesses, anyone who's had contact in any form, whether that's sightings, personal contact with beings, and of course, experiencers, abductees. And I got really concerned as disclosure goes forward because it's not part of the discussion. And because there was a threat narrative being discussed, even though it's now understood it's more a threat to military airspace. But I realize there'll probably be further discussions with a threat narrative. And as people start to ask about the abduction stuff, well, because it's not being included, could that backfire in a whiplash effect to the contactee community of all those various types of contact that I'll just put it all under the umbrella of contact, whatever form, you've had. But, and so could there be an increase in ridicule to those people because it's not being addressed? Like, this is real, but that isn't, or could people make that assumption? So, and the ridicule part could get worse. Also, if it is sold as a threat, could we be seen as part of that threat? Even if it's not now, because I'm not saying it is, I know better. But later, the fact that came up as a question, what if that's a question that persists later, And so I realized I know abductees that I know a medical doctor lost his license over this. We're going public with his abductions, lost his medical license. I know other people that have lost jobs, careers. I know people have been divorced over. I know people who lost custody of their kids over this subject because they've had experiences or dared to say it.
That's terrible. That's not fair to them.
Yeah. And so I worry about that kind of stuff happening as this goes forward. How are we perceived? Are we ridiculed for not being real? Are we perceived as a threat? Hopefully none of that will happen, but I don't want to sit around and wait. And also I'm really concerned about those people are out there talking about it when asked about this, like Lou Elizondo, and we already discussed Ross Coulthart, okay, or Nick Pope or whoever. When these people
that was not cool.
Yeah, when these people have media attention over this, how are they addressing this subject? Do they know the evidence? Do they know the talking points?
No, they don't. They don't.
Okay. Well, exactly. So because of these concerns, I contacted, as I said earlier, I'm very good friends with attorney Daniel Sheehan, who's representing Lou and is well known in this community for what he did for John Madden, etc. And the disclosure movement. And I said, Dan, I have concerns about this. And we got to talking and we decided, let's put some kind of group together about this. And he said, who would you want on it? And I came up with a wish list. And I have now contacted all those individuals. And they all, not only did they say, yeah, what? Did I lose anybody?
No.
Uh-oh.
No.
Hello? Are you guys there? It froze up for a minute.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here.
Can you hear me?
We're here.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
On my end, and everybody went black for a minute. So I'm like, oh, what happened? Okay.
I sent you a private chat message, Melinda.
Oh, you did?
I sent you a little private chat. Yeah. I mean, it's not really that private.
I
just said we're gonna close the show up soon. It's not like super private.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see it.
but so I just got the music. But
better just tell me here. Okay. So I'm gonna go through the names of who said yes, count me in, and now we're gonna have a Zoom meeting and move forward. But I can give you the yes who said count me in at this point. Okay, so it's one person we haven't heard from, but I think it's okay to say his name. But maybe I'll leave his name out. So I'll say 9. So we have attorney Daniel Sheehan, Melinda Leslie, okay, attorney abductee Terry Lovelace, Jim Lowe, who is an attorney, works with Yvonne Smith, and actually wrote a paper about this very thing that he submitted to all the congressmen. But attorney Jim Lowe, researcher Kathleen Martin, researcher abductee advocate Yvonne Smith, researcher abductee advocate Les Velez, who heads up Opus. So Yvonne Smith is CIRO, Les Velez of Opus, which is the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support in the Bay Area, California. Gwen Farrell, who's with the ERT team, heads up abduction research for MUFON now, and Whitley Strieber. So that's the dream team. And all those people have said, count me in. I want to be a part of this.
That's awesome.
And the working title, although this may change, so everyone know this may change, is Contact Rights Coalition, or the CRC for the acronym. And it's protect contactee rights, and even military witnesses like you, Gary. And obviously Dan already does that, and has done it. And also, like I said, media talking points. We're not going to replace any of the abduction research organizations or those doing, what I call triage, helping the abductees with their experiences. We're not that. We're our rights, our voice as a community in the disclosure process. So our voice in the disclosure process, our rights, and as well as how we approach the media and those people who are the media spokespeople. Like I'm going to have to go watch what Ross has recently said in these interviews, because he may be one of the first people we approach to say, look, you got to know some basics on how to address this and what the major talking points are, or at least say, I don't know, and refer people to us, refer media to us, whoever that is. And certainly a number of those people I just mentioned would be more than qualified to appear on the media and address the subject or address questions.
Right. And if you ever come on another show, we don't have a chance tonight, but I wanted to ask you whatever the hell happened to Sam Harris. He disappeared. And what do you think about David Paulides' research? But that'll have to be another time.
Yeah. Oh, David Paulides is amazing. I mean, it's not so much related to this, but his research in missing 411 and missing people in the national parks.
Vanished. The other one's called Vanished.
Is
Gary's here too.
Fascinating.
You don't have to go right away.
Frightening for sure.
Yes, there's a lot of missing people. Yeah, and Sam Harris disappeared, but I don't want to take time away from Gary and Amy and you guys. But
Gary, did you have something you wanted to ask?
No, it looks like everyone's jumping on now. No, I don't have any. But Gary, what's up? Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for jumping on.
I just love crashing parties.
Nice.
But Gary, you're welcome to my party anytime.
Hey.
I adore you.
But I'm trying to get Gary to come on the show in January, so I think that's going to happen.
Yay.
Yeah. Kind of cornered him right here, but maybe.
Yeah, you can't.
Long time no see.
No, we'll definitely make that happen.
But
that, John?
I do know.
Not much, man. How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing tonight?
Hanging in there, man. It's like we're talking a lot lately. This is good.
John, man, those were good questions, John. Very good questions. Very thoughtful. I appreciate it.
I'd ask Melinda a question, but I ain't got the time for the answer.
No, go.
I love busting her chops.
That's funny.
No, ask me a question. I'll go for a concise answer. I promise.
You can't do it.
I'll try. Ask me a question.
Let's see. Actually, I've already read and seen too much of your stuff, so I really don't have many questions.
I haven't heard all of it. You haven't heard all of it.
I'm gonna tie it up a little bit.
Thank you, by the way, Gary. If you've seen my presentations or something,
and,
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, Gary's amazing. I'm so happy that you're here, dude. We got Priscilla.
Sorry to drop it in so last minute.
And I'm
here.
Gary. Talk about party crashing. One of these days, I want to crash. We'll talk about privately, but I want to crash something you're doing with UAPX. I want to be in an investigation or something. So I'll talk privately about that.
Yeah, we definitely want to get out towards your neck of the woods at some point, anyways. So
yeah, well, I'm
on the short list.
Born and raised, and where you guys are going off the coast and everything. That's my, that was my playground until I moved here. So, but I'll talk to you privately about it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to drop, Gary, where can they find you? They can find you on Twitter, right?
Yep. Yes. Unfortunately, my Facebook's private, so if you try to message me with a friend request, I will politely decline.
So I'm just going to drop you in the gray room, man. We're all going to be back there.
I must be special. I think we're friends on Facebook, Gary, so I must be special.
We just got that StreamYard party link out there, so I'm going to drop it back into the gray room, man, and we'll be right there with you. Thanks for swinging by.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, John, what's up? I know you don't got any. I know you're on Alien Girl. That's where you go.
Yeah, Alien Girl. There's a few other channels, but yeah, mostly yours. And now I'm on Twitter too, so you can all find me on Twitter.
You're on jacket. Is that leather?
Yes.
Got the best jacket.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It looks orange. Is it orange or like pumpkin?
No, it's just bright red. Yeah.
Oh, it's bright red. It's just the lighting. But it looked like a camera like pumpkin color. It's very cool.
Yeah. Thank you. No, I'm on Twitter now too, so I'll be on there like raising hell. So you can all find me on there.
Well, I'll go on after this later, and it'll be fun too.
And then Melinda, obviously, we've been talking about everything I'm going to have all of the links to everything that we talked about, your UFO tour company, the new movie that's coming out for Extraordinary, and also
out. That came out on November 30th, so that's out.
Right, the link to it. Yeah. Okay. I'll put the link into it. But I'm going to drop you back in the gray room. Anything you want to say to everybody before you go? You did it. You were a brave one. You got through. I'm sorry. Alien Girl. Nothing bad happened. I'm happy. This turned out good. We did great.
Yeah. No. I loved it. It was fun. Like I said to you earlier day, and when we were texting, that I knew it'd be fun and serious, and I think we covered both. Thank you for having me on. I think people probably wanted to hear more about my personal abduction experiences. Well, you guys, I'm on with Vinny tomorrow. Maybe I'll get into some of that with him.
Yes, she's going to be on Vinny's disclosure team tomorrow. So if some questions, write them down.
Yeah.
Go to the show tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll follow his questions tomorrow, but sometimes other stuff comes up, and I think I'm very happy with everything we talked about. And I apologize to anyone that wanted to hear more about my personal experience, but sometimes that takes a back seat to talking about the research.
Yes, the research. And thank you so much for sharing your experience and taking the time out of your life to come on my show and talk about these things. And on top of it, fighting the fight and being out there and pushing for disclosure and being passionate about it and like not caring. Like we are kindred spirits because I'm out there talking about it too. And I'm just so thankful.
Well, and I want to, like I said earlier, encourage the young people in the field to do it. And I'll be patient, I promise. but encourage them because, welcome to the field. Thank you. There's so many really smart people, asking the right questions, and the women in the field like you, Amy, thank you from another woman in the field for being out there, representing women and asking the right questions. So thank you. And making it fun too. Cause you guys, it is a fun subject. Could it be serious? Can it be scary? Can it be serious? Can it be science? Absolutely. It's all those things. But you guys, the truth should be exciting and fun. And so I think that's a very important part to bring to it, is to have fun with it. We live in an incredible time. We're in the disclosure age, and what's happened so far is remarkable. And sit back and enjoy it. It's a party.
Yeah.
Time to celebrate.
It's a party. It is time to celebrate.
But no, we've got more work. But hey, opening night of a big show has a big party, right? Closing night has a party. Well, this is the opening night party, but you guys, we still got a whole show to run. So there we go.
Love you, Melinda. Thank you for coming on my show. I'm putting you in the gray room. Everybody, if you want to come hang out with Melinda, you can do that in the gray room. So I'm going to put her back there. And I'm just going to be saying bye to everybody so much in the chat. Thank you so much, Ufastoria, Majestic Q, Clearance. Thank you, Spooky. Thank you, Mysteria, girl. I love you. Thank you so much for the super sticker, girl. I love you. I got to see you on Discord, man. It's been too long. Cat1137, First Floor Audio. He wrote all of the tracks to Alien Girl 111, Case for Infinity, Paranormal Chop Shop, Hashtag End Nightmare, and so much more. I love each and every one of you. You have no idea, and I will see you next time.